I'm T. Rick Jones. I'm the managing editor.
I'm Chris Post, a contributing writer.
I'm Tony Tellado, host of SyFy Talk podcast.
And I'm Sabrina Wood, co-host of the SyFy Sistas podcast.
And this is your daily Star Trek news roundup for the week of May 26, 2024. So the first thing I want to do is wish Chris Post a happy birthday.
Thank you.
His birthday, as we record, May 31st is today. So he carved out time on his birthday to celebrate with us by talking. So Chris, you wrote most of the stories this week, so you're going to do a lot of talking.
Sorry, everybody.
And the first one is Scott Bakula, who is Star Trek Enterprise's captain, the first captain of the Enterprise, Captain Archer. He is going to be performing a show at Ford's Theater.
Coming to me. He's coming to me.
He's coming. We just gonna get to go see him. I'm so jealous. I really want to go see that show. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there aren't a super detailed amount of information that's out there just yet. Ford's Theater, of course, the infamous Ford's Theater, where Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, or at least where he was shot, is hosting this one-man show, starring Scott Bakula, of course, Captain / Admiral Archer, is going to be portraying Abraham Lincoln, and I tried to find some background information on the play itself, the show, and apparently it kind of takes place over a period of time. Kind of takes us through Abraham Lincoln's life and his time as president and as leader during the Civil War. Yeah, so it's going to be this fall, September through October, I think were the dates, and so. Yeah, but that's about it. There's not a whole lot of. I went. So we initially saw somebody else reported it, and so I followed the breadcrumbs back to the source, which was a press release from Ford's Theater, which basically says, "Hey, we're having Scott Bakula for Abraham Lincoln, and we're also having all of these other shows." And so they just used Scott Bakula as the hook to promote the rest of their fall slate of shows. They're also doing a Christmas Carol there if you're interested. So, but as far as the Scott Bakula show, he's in it. He's the president, and that's about all the details that are available right now.
Well, if you ever been to Ford's Theater, and I have seen a performance there, it's a hallowed place. It's an experience all in itself. So I'm glad they're using Scott to promote the rest of the season. But if you are anywhere in DC and if you can snag some tickets for a performance, any performance at Ford's Theater, go there. The where Lincoln was actually shot, the balcony, there is a perpetual banner of the president there. So as soon as you walk into the theater, you see that banner right where he was shot. It's just like your heart just stops. Downstairs in the Ford Theater is a full museum. It tells you the whole history of that night and then the chase after of John Wilkes Booth and all that. So if you're ever, it's a small, intimate theater. So this is going to be a really cool performance, and girlfriend is getting some tickets. Somebody, I've spent money in that place.
That's nice.
Yeah, I would love to. I've never been to Ford's. I would love to go there. I don't know if you know, Subrina, I'm a stage manager professionally, and I've applied there once or twice to stage manage, but it's never worked out. I would love to get down there and see.
Yeah,
it's really you'll never forget it once you've been there.
Yeah, the Star Trek connection continues with President Lincoln.
Exactly.
Back to the original series, and even in the TV series Manhunt, John Billingsley plays an attorney in the trial of the conspirator. So there's always a connection between the two. Also, Kirk's favorite president too. As a matter of fact.
Favorite president, right? Exactly.
And
exactly.
mine. That accounts for anything.
Gates McFadden has a podcast called Gates McFadden Investigates Who Do You Think You Are? Which is a somewhat unwieldy title, but it really the podcast does what the title says it does. So I can't fault it for that. It's put out by the Nacelle Company. We got a press release yesterday, and Thad, one of our writers, wrote it up for me today. Season 3 has been announced. It's coming out later this year.
Mhm.
Gate these, and let me just look up because they have announced some of the confirmed guests.
Sonequa Martin Green.
Saniqua, yep,
Oh,
exactly.
nice.
David Ajala,
Oh,
Michelle
yeah.
Hurd, Todd Stashwick,
Mm.
and a few surprise guests. But I'm really excited because I love this podcast, and
I
it's
do
so
too.
funny. Wednesday, today's Friday. Yes, I got the press release yesterday. Wednesday, I was going through all the podcasts I'm subscribed to, and I came across that one, and I was like, I wonder if there's going to be a season 3. I haven't heard word one about it. And then the next day, I got a press release, so they must have heard my thought.
There you go.
Sabrina, what do you think of? Have you listened to Gates
Oh,
Investigate?
yes, yes. Sister Yvette is a huge fan of Beverly, so we love that podcast. And Brian, who's with one of the producers, Brian VW as we call him, Vote Vice. He came on our show and talked about a bunch of things, but then he just sent us this little heads up that Gates' show was going to premiere. We were just like so excited. So Brian, thank you for sending us that. And yes, we are excited about Investigate. Some of the best interviews ever. I mean, the Nana interview, man,
Oh, wow.
I'm not
Yeah.
crying. Are you crying? I'm not crying. And the Will Wheaton one was absolutely, you're
Mm.
riveted just listening to it. You don't even want it to end. So definitely, if you
Yeah.
haven't listened to Investigate, I don't know what your problem is.
Hmm.
What about you, Tony?
I haven't heard it, but now it's on my list. I
There
will.
you go.
Good.
I
It's really
will
because
check it out.
she doesn't just ask them questions like, what was your favorite role and things like that. She digs deep. She talks about their childhood.
Wow.
I think it was the Will Wheaton one and maybe one or two others. She did a little game of truth or dare or something like that. But they're really revealing interviews. Like it's not just sort of surface stuff.
Oh,
As only Gates can do because she knows all these people and
sure.
with them. Um, and the guest lineup, I'm really excited for the guest lineup.
Yeah.
Martin
Yeah.
Green, I love Sonequa.
Hmm.
Um, Chris, do you listen to that podcast at all?
Yeah, I haven't listened to every episode. I've kind of cherry picked the episodes, but I have been impressed with her style as someone who teaches young journalists interviewing techniques. I think that her technique is right in that sweet spot. I tell my students you want to be conversational, but you don't want to be overly friendly, and she's right there in that. Now she is friends with some of the people who she interviews, obviously,
Yeah.
but she has a really great style, that conversational style that's really engaging and really fun to listen to. I come from a print journalism background where a lot of times people don't see the interview, and so if your interview style is a little bit rough, it's a little bit more forgiving than a broadcast or web style.
Yeah.
But her style is really point just right where you want it to be.
Yeah,
So it's good stuff.
Cool.
it really is. Tony, you should absolutely check it out.
I will.
Um, okay, moving on. We had a review this week of Star Trek Celebrations, which is a comic celebrating Pride Month. Aster, who's not with us today, wrote it up. And you can tell it's an honest review because she was very disappointed with it. Aster,
Mm.
queer person himself, is very gung ho about pride and all that kind of thing, and his reaction was kind of meh. It wasn't. He didn't love it. So you can check out that review on our website www.dailystartreknews.com, and check it out before you pick up the comic. You might still want to pick up the comic, but check it out because it's really honest honest review. Have any of you read that comic at all? I have not.
No, I have not read it.
So it's too bad Astor isn't here because he could talk a little bit more about it. But I just wanted to throw that in there. You can find that at our website and check it out. All right, moving along. Let's talk some Discovery. So, Chris, you wrote up several interviews. The first one I want to talk about is let's talk about Blue Del Barrio first. So, Blue did an interview. They're basically doing a end of series wrap up interview slate.
Yeah, everybody just about is giving interviews this week. But yeah, so Blue was interviewed. So Blue is of course Adira in Discovery, and Adira is a non-binary character played by a non-binary actor, and so she talked about how or they talked about how their arc mirrored the arc of Adira, how the actor and the character kind of grew together. Now, Adira was not an original season character; came in after the time jump, so not there for the whole series, but there for the second half of the series, and really had a lot of screen time and a lot of things to do. Discovery was a very crowded cast, and the bridge crew in particular didn't always get a lot of development. And but Adira was a character who did, and so Blue Del Barrio talked about their appreciation of that ability to grow with the character, and also spent a good part of the interview talking about working with Jonathan Frakes. And apparently, if you are a Trek actor, Jonathan Frakes is your favorite director. That's pretty much kind of what everybody says is they love working with Jonathan Frakes. So the penultimate episode of the series was directed by Jonathan Frakes, and Blue had some things to do in that episode. Got to don the Breen suit and got to have a fight scene, and stretch their acting muscles in some ways that they hadn't previously, and so that was also a fun experience for them.
Yeah. Subrina, what are your thoughts on Adira?
Adira was such a great character. I mean, I love the way she popped in at the very beginning, just kind of like this wise ass, but she they ended up being one of my, sometimes I would have a hard time with her because I was like, girl, just step up. I mean, just step up. You can do this. Blue, come on. That hesitation, and I was always getting from the other sisters, you're just so mean. You're just so mean about Adira. I was like, Adira, you have it. Just do it. We did meet with them and had a great conversation. Just one, and met again at one of the cons, and I just loved how they were embracing this whole journey to be one of your first parts. You're given a Star Trek role. That's a lot. That's a lot. And that actor is not that, old. They're very young. And this is a huge thing. And to have all that weight of representing, that, I've been through it, they've been through it, and you're like, I'm pleased. But taking it on, and I admire them for that, and I wish them all the best. And just got a new role. She's already out. I'm messing up my pronouns. Just forgive me, everyone.
I have trouble with that too.
They are already on to the next fun thing. Congrats! I just saw the announcement from Deadline, and I'm excited.
That's awesome. How about you, Tony? What do you think about?
Well, one of the things I loved about it was kind of like the little family unit that formed with Stamets, Culber, and Blue and Adira, and I thought that was really neat. How they kind of encouraged her and nurtured her, or them, I should say, And I really appreciated that. And they did such a great job with that. And I kind of like that she was a little hesitant because especially the last few episodes, hey, you're on the bridge for a reason. You belong here. So I like to see a character grow like that. And they did a great job playing that role too. Very innocent, but obviously very smart too. Really enjoyed the performance and great character that was added to the show.
Yeah, I'm sort of with Subrina on this. I didn't love them at first. I think they were a little bit meant to take over for Tilly, who was gaining more confidence as time went on. I didn't love her at first at the beginning of the series either, and a lot because she just didn't seem very Starfleet to me. She was very hesitant and very, as a cadet. But she has had one of the biggest arcs, I think, in the show. And I think as she was gaining more confidence, they wanted that sort of feeling of somebody who's just learning the job and just, very hesitant. So I love all the characters in this show, and I've grown to really enjoy Adira. And as Tony said, I really like that family unit, that dynamic that has, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but I think one of the things Discovery does better than most Star Treks is relationships, whether that's parents for a child, or husband and wife, or lovers, whatever it is. I think they are really real, and I think that's one of those relationships that really sort of shines through and made the show special and unique. The next one I want to talk about is Tig Notaro has done her final interview. So Chris, take it away.
Okay, well, Tig is a character Jet Reno, Tig's character, is one that I have loved basically since she appeared on screen. She has really knocked it out of the park. And she's been doing the interview circuit here lately. We had a story last week where she talked about the jokes and the humor, and gave the writers' room credit for all of that. Even though she's a comedian, they write the stuff, and she just comes in and delivers it. This week, she was talking about the future of the character, and a little bit about its origins. And so Jet Reno, she likes the character. She wants to keep playing the character. And so Tig has said that the character is very much like herself. She describes it to her friends as Tig in space. And so she feels very comfortable, very natural, and has said that if the opportunity were to arise for Jet Reno to make an appearance at Starfleet Academy, she would be more than happy to accommodate that. So there is maybe a little bit of hope. That was not an official announcement by any means that Jet Reno is going to be at Starfleet Academy, but she's open to it. And then she also talked a little bit about how the character came to be, was that it was kind of made for her. It's very close to her real personality. But she knows Alex Kurtzman from way back in the day. Apparently, they were production assistants together back when they were just starting out in Hollywood, both working as PAs, running around Hollywood. And of course, Alex climbed the ladder and becomes involved with Star Trek and says, "Hey, I know this person who I really like." And so he called her up and said, "Hey, I have a part I want you to play," and it was Jet Reno. So make friends early in your career, folks, because you never know who might be able to help you later. And certainly that was the case. Two PAs. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed all these years later that they'd be where they are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sabrina, how do you like? What's your take on Tig?
Oh, everybody loves Tig. You get chips? Are there chips? And I actually loved it too, right from the very beginning when she had blood on her hands and she had the kids. I loved all of it. I was so glad. And again, another character that was just so smart and cool under fire. just always had the lines. I was so glad to see her come back. Fourth season when they brought her, she had like a bit to do. I think it was fourth season. Um, and again, I'm glad she got to come back in here for the final season. But what an actor!
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's her, but she's hitting the marks and she's saying the dialogue right on time.
Yeah, right, exactly. And she's hilarious. Tony, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I just really kind of fell in love with her snarkiness. The first episode in season 2 that she was in. And, like Scotty, she was good at jury rigging things and kind of making something out of nothing. And yeah, she's such a great character. And if you get a chance, she has, I think on Netflix, she has the stand up special. You should check out her humor there. But a great character. Um, I love the book selling aspect of her character too. That was brought out.
That's so crazy. Yes.
Oh, wasn't that?
Yeah.
I love that. I thought that was great. And man, that Toronto library they shot that episode in was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have some rare stuff there too. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's another story. I'm sure you talked about it already. But yeah, she's a great character, and I would love to see her again in the Starfleet Academy show up occasionally.
Yeah. Yeah, my feeling is she wouldn't be a great like regular character, but she's great to bring in when you need that kind of character. She shook things up a little bit starting in season 2 when she started being a recurring character. I love how her relationship with Stamets sort of was head to head at the beginning and got contentious, and then they really grew to sort of respect each other and have this thing. So I loved having her as part of the series, and I think it was an important addition personality-wise because there was nobody quite like her in the series, and so having that sort of edge really helped, I think, the series a lot. One final interview this week, that is with the already mentioned Jonathan Frakes. So, Chris, go for it.
Yeah, so Jonathan Frakes, of course, he directed, as I said, that penultimate episode, and so he was interviewed about that episode and about directing Star Trek episodes in general. He talked a lot about Sonequa Martin Green and what a great actress she is, and how he's sure that whatever her next project is will be awesome because she's always awesome and she brings her A game every time, and so she's a pleasure to direct. One of the things that he mentioned in that interview, though, was that the time that he was directing the episode, he didn't know that it was going to be the last Discovery episode that he was going to direct. He didn't know that it was going to be the penultimate episode of the series. He knew it was the penultimate episode of the season. And so he said, when he said his goodbyes, he thought it was goodbye until next season, not goodbye forever. And one of the things that he said was he was glad at the time that he didn't know, because he might have made different directorial decisions had he known that it was going to be the last episode that he was ever going to direct. And so I know a lot of the actors, have said that they were kind of blindsided by it, by the announcement of the cancellation. But at least for him, he was able to approach it from a more pure, unemotional standpoint. And he says there's always tears at the end of the season, but there would have been much more tears had he known it was the end of the series. So, and of course, he's such a great guy. I've never had the opportunity to interview him, but man, I would love to sit down with him for an hour and just chat, because he, in the interviews that I've seen and read of his, he's really insightful. He's been in the business a really long time now, and he man, he just has such kind of a 360 view of Star Trek, what it is and what it can be. As starting as an actor, as a lot of directors do, he's been on both sides of the camera, sometimes simultaneously, and he just really has just an appreciation of the craft, and I really like to talk to people who, not just in entertainment but in any line of work, really are craftsmen, and have that, like I said, that 360 perspective, and he just really has it. And so it's always great, always insightful. I always learn something when I read one of his interviews, and so it's good stuff.
Yeah. Subrina, how are you a Jonathan Frakes fan? He asks. Who isn't?
Who is not? I really, actually, who is not? I mean,
Right.
even if you don't like him from Star Trek, you could like him from something else he's done. We have had him on the live show, the SyFy Sistas live show. He came on to talk about his work with his favorite charities and things that we did a Trectivism sort of show. Kitty Swank was there and a few other people, and Armin Zimmerman. So Jonathan, he is just one of the things I love most about Star Trek is that in the Next Generation series, they had this program that let the actors develop as directors. And we have that program to thank for Jonathan Frakes, because one of his first episodes that he got to do while he was in Next Generation was Lal, I believe it was the first one.
Yeah.
And then he also directed the Chase, which is the source of this whole season. And of course, the movies that he's directed. I totally love his style. I think I can sense that it's a Frakes episode when I'm watching it. I don't know what it is about it, the camera angles or the dialogue. I just don't know. But he is a wonderful person. Every time we've ever seen him, he acts like we're just friends of his. We're like, "Hi, Jonathan," and he's like, "Hi." Like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. It was so funny because when he came on, you know how you have that little hesitation when you do the Zoom,
Yeah.
and we saw his screen that came up, Jonathan Frakes, and we all like lost it for a second. We just, God, here he comes. But he's such a cool person and such a professional. And I know this really was fitting that he did that last episode. It just was a great end note, and then of course the finale. But wow, what a way to go out! They did Discovery right.
I'll say, Tony, how about you?
Oh yeah, I've had the pleasure to talk to him several times for his charity, and we also talked Star Trek, and I think we talked right at the anniversary of First Contact, a script he describes as bulletproof because of, and then adding Cromwell and Alfre Woodard to it was like the icing on the cake. Great director. That second to last episode he directed was so exciting. It was like I was riveted. He has such a great, besides handling the actors, he knows how to do action, as he proved in First Contact, and came up with Borg Vision, for God's sakes. But yeah, he's a terrific director. It's been great to see him evolve from that first episode, The Offspring, all the way now. And he has a new project he's going to be working on too coming up. So I know he's going to do a great job no matter what he does. Great actor, and also really one of my favorite directors too.
Yeah, mine too. He's probably my favorite Star Trek director. He's just got such a great eye, and as you said, Sabrina, he basically invented the director program on Next Generation. And it was put together specifically for him, and he's really ambitious, and a nice guy. I've talked to him a couple of times. I talked to him once. Well, both times were about PanCan, his charity, but once by himself, and then once with Kitty and Armin and John Billingsley as well.
John, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention you. Hi, John.
So really, just a great guy to get to know and talk with. Speaking of directors, Chris does a top 5 Friday every week, and this week's is about the top 5 Star Trek actors who also directed Star Trek. And Frakes is on that list. So head over to dailystartreknews.com and check that out. It's a good list. I'm always excited when the 2 highlights of my week are Meme Monday that Aster does and top 5 Friday that Chris does, because it's always fun to see what they come up with and to put it together and find the images for them. So check that out. Okay, that's all the stories this week. We're going to talk about the latest Discovery episode in a moment. So if you haven't watched it, turn us off now. Go watch the episode. And also, why haven't you watched the episode yet? It's amazing.
Yeah.
But if you haven't, turn off and go watch it and then come back. But before we do that, today is May 31st. On June 1st, Adam Nimoy's memoir, The Most Human, June 4th. Did I say that? Anyway, June 4th, Adam Nimoy's memoir, The Most Human, is coming out. We have a special deal with Chicago Review Press, which is the publisher. You can get 25% off what they're calling an autobiography. I would more refer to it as a memoir than an autobiography. But if you go to their website, chicagoreviewpress.com/mosthuman, you can order the book, pre-order it or order it on the day or whatever, and use code DSTN25. That's DSTN25. That's going to get you 25% off the book, and it's going to help us out in the process. And that's valid through July 7th. So check that out. I've got a review coming out, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do it the day before or the day of the release, but I have read the book, so give that a shot and get 25% off.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, last week Burnham went through this portal that they found, and this week we found out where she went, which was a futuristic M.C. Escher painting, apparently. And hijinks ensue. She's trying to find the progenitor's tech. Maul shows up. Inevitably, they start working together, and then Maul betrays her, knocks her out. But then Maul, tries to get the tech with some shocking results, and Burnham has to save her, and then Burnham gets the tech. Meanwhile, we've got all these different things happening. So Saru and Nan, which I was glad Nan made a few appearances this season. I liked that. But they're off on a sort of a diplomatic mission, so we get to see Saru's ambassador chops, which was cool. And while Book and I almost called him Wilson, but that's his real name. Book and Culber are off trying to retrieve Michael. And it all culminates in they get the tech. Burnham sees one of the progenitors, who is basically their version of the knight at the end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. The choice is yours. You choose wisely. And she does. She decides that nobody's ready for this. We don't need this tech anymore because we already have infinite diversity and infinite combination. So why do we need to create more diversity in the universe? So they put it where nobody can get it, which is beyond the event horizon of one of the two black holes they're near. Saru and the president of Navarre get married, which was very satisfying to see.
Mm-hmm. And
then Burnham and Book go off on their next adventure, and we learn Kovich's true identity. Which for Enterprise fans, I'm sure was a delight. So, yep, I'm with you, Subrina. When they said Daniels, I was like, yes. So anyway, that's just sort of the elevator pitch of the episode. We're going to break off there, and we're going to talk about the end of the series a little bit later. But what are your thoughts? Anybody can start. Who wants to go first to talk about this?
Well, I'll start. It was a very satisfying ending. It was, Star Trek endings, sometimes they just don't hit the mark. People are still upset about Enterprise's end, although it didn't bother me as much, but I can understand it. But this one had a very satisfying ending, very action-packed. last episode, and I thought everybody was used well. It was just a really good episode. We'll talk about it in detail, but it did seem like the wrap up or coda at the end seemed like it was tacked on. But that's really I have other nitpicks that we'll get into, but I thought great, great episode. The wedding was beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and I don't think we ever seen a Vulcan wedding before. So I think that's the first.
Yes, we have.
We have where?
Enterprise.
Oh, Enterprise, you're right.
That's
Enterprise.
right.
Yeah, that's right. I totally forgot.
Oh, you so walked into
Speak
that.
of the devil. Speak of the devil. Yes. Wow.
Hilarious. I love
get
Enterprise.
married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are my thoughts, and I came away pretty satisfied.
Yeah. Who's next? Chris, Sabrina?
Well, of course, just like Tony, I was very satisfied with that ending. And we actually did an interview with Michelle Paradise a couple of days ago, and we thanked her for that ending because, we're still reeling from where our captain, Cisco is. Like, what do you do to him?
Yeah,
And
I know.
so the TNG ending was good. It was okay. It was just sort of like, and of course the Voyager ending where fireworks. Like, wait, no, they got to land and meet everybody. What are you doing? So this was really, really very, very, very good and very happy. And I'm glad, as Sister Fran always said, I'm glad they finally connected the Calypso episode. That was great. They came all the way around because I was still trying to figure out what that was all about. Although I still have questions about that, but never mind. And I loved, what did you call it? That set janitor. Like, what in the blue blazes was going? That was amazing. And then when we get to our nitpicks, I'm just going to say this to you. I was ready to kill Maul. I was like, if I could have had a gun, thermal generator. Here's my phaser for you, sis. But great acting. Love that character. I know she's coming back because Kovic has got plans for it. So it's gonna be good.
Yeah. Chris, what are your thoughts?
Well, last week, Aster and I made several predictions of what we expected to happen in the last episode, and we were completely wrong. So we thought for sure that somebody was going to die. We weren't sure who, but our money was on Maul, and she didn't die. I thought that maybe they might use the progenitor technology and that world root that Book had gotten from the library to bring back his planet. That didn't happen. So it's good. Aster has not seen all of Star Trek, but I have. I've seen every episode of everything, the animated series, the very short treks, the films. I have seen. If they have made it, I have seen it. And so when it's something that can surprise me, that's always good. That's always good. It's like I read there's like 950 hours of Star Trek content, and I've seen it all. And so if they can come up with something new after 950 hours that is surprising to me, well done to them. And so it was, overall, though, it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. I thought the fight scene between Burnham and Maul was good. It just went a little long. I thought, man, this is this is getting. This is our last episode, folks. We're chewing up screen time with the fist fight. Let's wrap this up. But it was well choreographed and made a good use of the environment. It's always good when a fight scene moves around and makes use of the environment, and this one certainly did. So I don't know who the fight choreographer was for that episode, but he did a really good job. Even the fight scene with Burnham and the Breen in the hurricane was well done. So very physical aspects of the episode, and it was well put together, well choreographed with the fight scenes, which Star Trek is not always known for good fight choreography. So it was well done here.
Yeah. Another thing that I loved, I thought it was a great episode. Another thing that I loved in the episode that hasn't been mentioned yet is the way, even though they were in different areas of the ship or different ships altogether, everybody was working together to solve problems. So that's a thing that I think Discovery does better than most of the other Star Trek series, is that everybody's got their specialty. There was a moment when Tilly was on the bridge and Stamets and Adira were in engineering, and they were working to solve this problem to save the ship. Between the three of them over comm, and they were each putting out ideas, and some of the other bridge crew was as well. And I really like it when a team comes together and like solves a problem, and they each have their own ideas, and they all sort of make sense. So I love that about that episode too. I've already mentioned Kovich. I loved that we got to see Geordie's visor and a bottle of Chateau Picard and Cisco's baseball. That was all very cool. I thought when they were doing that, they were setting up that he was going to be one of the prophets. So I didn't think of Daniels, and then when he said Daniels, I was like, oh, of course, that makes more sense a little bit. So anyway, that was what I was expecting. I think overall it was a good series ending. I think Maul, had they gone on to a season 6, and we'll talk about what we think season 6 would have looked like in a little bit, but I think Maul would have been involved in season 6. I think she would have served a brief sentence, and then Kovich would. Subrina was shaking her head. She's like, "No, thank you."
No. I love that actress. She came on our show too, and did a fantastic job. But I'm telling you, I was so done with her.
Well, and I think there was more. There was more to explore with her in book too. Like there was not really a resolution there. They had sort of a last scene, but
I was done with it too. But
and,
I was done with him.
You probably all heard this. The book wasn't supposed to be in this season. His story ended in season 4. So he was surprised when they called him and said, "We want you to be part of season 5." So, I think I think it was a great choice. I loved.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So I think the connection between him and Maul would have been interesting to get a little resolution to, or explore a little bit more. Which I believe maybe they'll do a tie-in novel or a comic or something.
Yeah. She's like the only person from his planet left.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
That you ought to be my friend and stop being so difficult, girl.
That's right.
So anyway, I thought it was a pretty cool way to end the season. My conversation with Chris Post, Tony Tellado, and Subrina Wood kept going. Stay tuned to Daily Star Trek News for our thoughts on the end of Star Trek Discovery. And if you're a Patreon supporter, you'll get that video 2 days early and ad-free. But that's not all. Patreon supporters can get new rewards like stickers, mugs, and tote bags. Plus, they'll have the opportunity to enter contests and win Star Trek merchandise. Patreon support helps us afford the hosting fees for our newsletter, podcast, and website, and also helps to pay our fantastic writers. Even a donation of as little as $1 a month helps us out. Visit www.patreon.com/dailytreknews to help us out.